Everyone, Professor Hank here. So today we're going to talk about basic arithmetic in Python. We will also look at the order of operations, and we'll talk a little bit about some terminology that we'll need to discuss this in detail. So let's go and get started. The first thing we need to think about is what the actual terms are. So what is an expression? An expression is some combination of items such as variables, literals, operators, and parentheses. And an expression will evaluate to a value. Now, commonly you'll see expressions used on the right side of assignment statements, and we'll see examples of all of these things here in just a moment. A literal is some specific value in your code. So, for example, 10 or 3.14159, for example. Now, what's an operator? An operator is some symbol that's going to perform a built-in calculation. So, for example, the plus is an operator, and that performs addition. So the basic arithmetic operators that we have available to us are going to be addition, which is plus. It's going to be subtraction, which is minus. Multiplication, which is an asterisk. We'll also have a forward slash, which is our division operator for dividing one number by another. And we also have in Python the exponent operator, which is two asterisks right next to each other. And that allows us to find exponents. So we can find 2 squared, for example. So now let's take a look at some coding examples. All right, so let's go ahead and see some examples in our code. So I've already got idle ready to go. So we will create some variables, we'll create some expressions, we'll do some arithmetic here. So let's say that I created a couple variables, x and y, and I assigned to each of them 5 and 2 respectively. And I wanted to add the contents of those variables up. I could do something like this. Z equals x plus y, for example. And then I could print out the contents of my z variable. So right here, we've got an example of a literal. We've got an example of an expression. And this expression is going to evaluate to the sum of the contents of x and y. So x plus y is going to be 5 plus 2. So x plus y will evaluate to 7. And then that 7 is going to be assigned to our z. And then we'll print out the z on the screen. So let's go ahead and do that. To save my source, I'll save it someplace that is convenient for me. I'll just call this math.py. And then when we run this, you'll see there is the result of our 7, right? There's our 7. There's the result of our arithmetic. So now let us look at other examples as well. So we will do z equals x minus y. So what's that going to evaluate to? Well, x minus y is 5 minus 2, so that's going to evaluate to 3. And so if we run that, you're going to see on the screen 3. There's that. And then we could also put inside of the print, or we could give to the print, an expression. So we could do something like x times y. And so what's this x times y going to evaluate to? 5 times 2, which is 10. And so it's that's the 10. And so that 10 will be displayed on the screen. So you can see it right there. And then if I wanted to do division, I could do something like print x divided by 2. So I'm using a variable right here as part of my division expression, and I'm dividing the contents of x by this literal 2. So if I run that, you're going to see that we get 2.5. And then we've also got the exponentiation operator. So if I wanted to find out what 2 cubed was, for example, I could do something like print 2 raised to the power of 3. And so when I run that, you're going to see that that is 8, right? Now, we can do more complicated things than that. So let's say that I wanted to find the average of 2 numbers, and maybe I'm going to ask the user for those numbers. So I might have something that looks like this. Num1 is equal to int input, enter a number, and then num2 equals int input, enter a number. And then if I want to calculate the average, then I'm going to have the average is equal to, and now I'm going to introduce these parentheses here, because parentheses will cause things to be evaluated first, right? So num1 plus num2. I want to do the addition of the contents of those two variables first and then divide by 2. So this is a little bit more complex, and you can see that whatever's in parentheses gets evaluated first. So it's our first taste of order of operations. Okay, so then I'll print out that average. I'll do something like the average is, and then I'll print out the average, and then we can go ahead and test it. So I'll type in for the first number, say 5, and then for the second number, say 1, and then we'll find that that average is 3.0. All right, so next up, let's talk about our order of operations. And the order of operations are the rules that govern, which operators are going to be processed first. So which expressions are going to go first. So for example, if we've got something that looks like this, 6 times 3 plus 2 divided by 4. Right? What's the answer going to be to that? Well, our order of operations is going to tell us that the first thing that happens is stuff within parentheses is evaluated first, followed by the exponentiation operator, so raising things to powers, followed by the unary negation operator, so that way we can do like -5. And then after that, we're doing multiplication and division. They have the same rank. And then after that, we've got addition and subtraction. And the rules tell us that when you've got a tie, you evaluate from left to right. So with that in mind, let's see how this expression right here is going to evaluate. What is it going to evaluate to? So multiplication and division go before addition. So the addition is going to happen last, but we got to go left to right because we've got multiplication and division, same level of precedence. So 6 times 3 is 18. So it's going to evaluate to 18 plus 2 divided by 4. And then our rules tell us that the next thing that comes up is the division. So 2 divided by 4 is going to be 0.5. And then finally, we're just left with the addition. So that's going to leave us with 18.5. So let's test that. And you can see there is our 18.5. Let's look at another example here. This time we'll throw some exponentiation in there. So let's say we've got 2, and then we're going to raise that to the power of 3. And then we're going to divide by 2. And then we're going to subtract 4. So how is this going to evaluate? Now, our order of operations tells us that exponentiation happens first before division and before subtraction. So we're going to do 2 cubed. That's going to happen first. So 2 raised to the power of 3 is 8. And then that's going to leave us with 8 divided by 2 minus 4. So division goes before subtraction. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then we're just left with the subtraction. And then that is going to leave us with 0. So let's test that. You can see there's our answer, 0.0. Now, let's see how parentheses would impact that. So let's say that we did something like this. Let's say that we put the 2 minus 4 inside of parentheses. Now, if we do that, then that overrides everything. 2 minus 4 is going to be evaluated first. So we're left with an expression that looks like this. 2 minus 4 is minus 2. And then the exponentiation happens. So 2 cubed, so that's 8 divided by -2. Now all we're left with is that division. So if we divide 8 by -2, that's going to leave us with -4. So let's test that. And you can see there's our -4.0. Now, of course, we can also do this with variables. So we'll finish up with an example of using variables to do this same kind of thing. So if I got X and I assign 5 to that, and then I've got Y and I assign 2 to that, and I've got Z and I assign, say, 2.5 to that, then I might have an expression that looks like this, or statement. And the statement's a complete thing, right? That includes assignment. So I might have something that looks like this. I might have something that looks like W equals X times Y plus Z. So what's this going to evaluate to? Well, the X contains 5, the Y contains 2, and the Z contains 2.5. So our order of operations tells us that the multiplication is going to happen first. So 5 times 2 is 10. And then we're left with 10 plus 2.5, which is going to evaluate to 12.5. So, and we'll go ahead and print out our W, and we will see if we are correct or not. Okay, and so there you go. You can see that there's the 12.5. So there you go. All right, so that's everything that I've got for you in this video. What did we talk about? We talked about basic arithmetic in Python. We talked about what an expression is, what an operator is, what a literal is, and we saw examples of how to use arithmetic in Python using both literals and variables in our expressions. And we talked about the order of operations. As usual, if you're a student of mine, you have any questions about the content of this video or any of the other videos in our courses, feel free to email me via Canvas or stop by our online Zoom office hours. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.